So if I say to you guys now, oh, you know what, we're going to focus on a really, really awesome, fantastic haircut, and then I'm going to pick on your design team members for this too. It's a bob. What do you guys think? It's a bob. That's what you think. Or you're like, what? Are you kidding me? You're really going to do a bob? I'm absolutely going to do a bob. I can't wait. Your trainers did the same thing yesterday. I was like, we're going to do an awesome haircut. It's a bob. And they were all like, really? Yeah. But why? Say it loud.
They always say smart.
Yeah, so you guys, a bob is the #1 requested haircut, and it has been since 1920. So it's amazing. And if you even Google right now a bob haircut, and I would say when you're on a break, do it. Break out your phone, Google the hottest bobs. Some of the things that are on there are not even bobs. But it's the #1 requested haircut. It has been for so long, over 100 years, and it always will be for the next 100 years, the most requested haircut. But let's be real, is it the easiest haircut in the world to do, or the hardest? Why? Who said that? So way back, yeah.
Hair texture, sensitivity.
Yeah, so there's so many versions. You got to deal with the hair, the growth patterns of the hair. What did you ladies add on? You said something, I cut you off. What else?
They come with layers and the one above.
Yeah, they have layers, they want a bob, maybe their hair can't do it. The texture of the hair. Yeah, what else? What else makes it difficult?
Very technical.
Yeah, it's technical. I know when I went to cosmetology school, they were like, we're going to start with the bob because it's the easiest haircut. It took me over a week to execute it. I would cut it a little bit, cut it a little bit, cut it a little bit, da-da-da. So there you go. So yes, we're going to do a bob haircut. But the reason why we're going to do a bob haircut is we're going to take a really basic haircut and make it unbasic for the customer. So if you could go forward for me. So these are all variations of some very hot, very on-trend current bobs that are happening. So no, of course you have the more squared version that's over here on the blonde, where it's just a true one-length bob with that little bit of undercut. Then you start moving into the graduated bobs with some layer and some movement. So my little pink-haired girl in the center. And then of course you have your more textured, more heavily layered bob in the end result. So what we're going to do with the bob though is give variations where you can very easily achieve all three of these in just some really simple processes. But then on top of it, we're also going to look at challenges that the bob haircut gives us. And you guys already threw out the reasons why. It's the way their hair grows, it's the texture, it's the curl or patterns that they have on their head that can make a bob haircut go so wrong. Now, I'm big, you guys, on sharing when I've made mistakes as a hairdresser. So one of the biggest mistakes I ever made with the bob is a lady would come in and sit in my chair, we're talking about her bob haircut, and she's like, I want the back to be bouncy. I want it to be round. And I know some of you guys are like going, I'm with you. So what's the first thing that I do? I get in there and graduate that hair. Then as I graduate the hair, she's like, maybe like, oh, I didn't think it would be that short. You know, so some of the, yeah, we've all done it, right? And it's like when you ask for bouncy, you wanted it to bam, it's got to be short. You know, all this stuff. Well, it took me a long, long time to realize that when a woman wants a bam, bouncy bob, she doesn't, that's my name. So when you guys do the class, it's not Leona's, it's the bam bob. That's what I want it to be, Carmen. Yeah. Yeah, but so that's the thing is sometimes the ladies are asking for something and how I perceive it is how I perceive it. I give them the haircut and then all of a sudden it's like not what they were looking for. So now, as I do the first part of the haircut, you guys, you're just gonna kind of play around with me. I'm going to talk about the sectioning, and then I'm just going to get into establishing just a solid line. And then there are head sheets on the table, and if you have some pens, we have a few that you can share, and if not, grab the pens out. You're welcome to take photos, you're welcome to take notes, if you just want to watch, whatever works for you. And then to make it maybe easy, I'm going to do a little bit on this side of the room, and then I'm going to move over here and do a little bit on that side of the room, so everybody can get a shot of what we're looking for. So basically when I'm looking at the sectioning of the haircut, oh yes, nice.
If they can't see, do you mind if they stand up?
I don't care if they come,
Don't stand in front of the people.
Yeah, and then if you just wouldn't block the camera.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if you want to come closer, feel free. So, yeah, that's awesome. And you might not yet, but you might when I get to the next section, you're going to be like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so for me, one of the easiest ways to execute a bob is just divide and conquer. So I like to divide the hair into 3 different sections of areas that have to work with the round of the head. So like ideally, if I were to position my comb just flat on the back of the head, where the comb starts to move away, the top of the head, that's the crown section. So this hair is going to lay very differently than the rest of the haircut. So sometimes I need to make adjustments in this area in a bob, just because of the way it lays over the top of the head. You can just stay right on that one. Yeah, thank you. So then where the comb starts to move away on the bottom, that's the occipital bone area. This is usually the area in the bob that we're trying to create an illusion of width or fullness, or sometimes we're trying to correct issues that they're having with the hairline. So I basically put below my occipital bone, everything at the crown and below, and then the top of the head, and just work in those three major sections. Now you guys, just because that's how I do it doesn't make her wrong or right. I just like to divide or conquer and work with how the round of the head is going to impact the end result of my haircut. And please don't be bashful. If you have questions, please ask. And you guys, I get really excited when I cut hair in color. You'll see it. And then all of a sudden, I'm like the Energizer Rabbit. I'm talking really fast and it's crazy. Just be like, slow down. Oh, now you guys are just too serious. If you get serious, we do mean things. I'm just teasing. All right. So now at that point, when I'm establishing my base length on the bottom, I could totally do this haircut with an A-line shape. I could do it with the square shape. I can also round off the shape. So as we're working through these techniques, it works with any type of bob haircut. And then the biggest thing that I want you to keep in mind as we're cutting is we're going to use techniques that address problems that happen in a bob haircut. So, and then Carmen, will you help me for a minute? I'm going to have you kind of showcase some of the mannequins. So over here are mannequins they all have a variation of the haircutting technique that we're going to do, whether it's more of a square bob or a slight A-line feel. A very soft, wispy A-line. Sometimes women are saying they want really textured, shattered bobs, so we have a variation that way. And then my favorite is a little girl that's in the center, where she's got a really hardcore stack bob in the back that's real round, and then those disconnected A-line pieces in the front. So again, whatever end result I'm getting with the haircut, I will get with these techniques. But the very first thing I want to do is establish my length line. So now, what do you guys think the bob is going to be for spring and summer? What type of shape is it going to have? Do you think it's going to be more A-line, more square, or more round? So it's going to be more square to round moving forward in the summer months. And then the other thing with bobs is they're going to get very extremely short again. So we're going to be like working right off the hairline shape. So the bob, or the feel of the bob, it shifts about every 20 years from, what's that like hardcore A-line shape that started getting softer and softer and softer, and now it's kind of squaring out. So the first thing that I want to do is establish my perimeter length. If this was a real person, I would cut the hair as close to the neck as possible. But because the mannequins don't have any give on their neck, I have to hold it in one finger. But I'm literally going to just hold this right to the hairline shape, and then I'm going to cut just a very square line. I like to start right in the center of the bob and cut my way out to the outside. And then if you want to keep a little protection, or if you want more of an A-line feel, start over directing the outside of the haircut in. So now you guys all got a pretty good shot of that. Excuse me. Like I'm right over here. So now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So in Carmen, we're going to go with this girl first.
Okay.
All right.
Can I pass her around?
Sure you can.
Okay.
So, and then you guys, I have to stand so it's comfy for me. Can you guys all see though now? All right, so now same thing. I'm just going to grab a piece of what I cut in the center as my guide, and then just connect right to the outside. And don't worry, I will go back and forth so everybody can see. Ooh, is that me giving feedback? I went too close to the speaker. Can you hear it? All right. And then I just bring her down just a bit more. So I'm basically just going to get my line in. And then now what I'm going to do is a little trick on this haircut. So basically the trick is, what's the biggest challenge women have down here on the bottom of their bob?
Stand up.
Okay, so cowlicks, growth patterns, sometimes their hairline wants to shift, or they get that really exciting little whirl that happens in the back. And then what if somebody said something else? Okay, growth patterns, cowlicks, what else? Yeah, so you cut it, and even if you cut it flush to the skin, sometimes that bottom section of the hair wants to flip out, no matter what you do with the bob, even if you put the head down to cause that little bevel or an undercut, right? So that could be the first challenge, is how do we want this little hairline to lay in? But then the second challenge too, this is there are areas where the ladies are like, I really want my haircut to bam. So the first thing that we do is, oh, bam, graduation, right? So then we come in and we do this and we start putting this little 45-degree finger angle in, right? And then that's our band. So who does that besides me? Raise your hands. Only a few of you? Oh, everybody. You guys, what's the number one thing, the rule that we learn in haircutting classes in beauty school about short hair moving long hair? Yeah, so short hair is always going to move longer. So if her problem is this hair wants to kick out and I do this and put short hair underneath, what happens to that kick out? It's worse because now I put short hair underneath it to support it and build it up. So this was a little trick that I learned, and when I first saw it, I freaked out a little bit because I was like, that's crazy. But then as soon as I cut a couple of sections, if you're thinking it's crazy, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing what it does to the end result where it creates the roundness. So the first thing I'm going to do is start right in the center. Can you guys all see okay? I'm going to block you. You might go a little. Okay. So I'm going to start right in the center of my section. And don't worry, I'll come back over there if you can't see it. I'm going to take my section vertically out just like I would do a graduation. And I'm going to rest my fingers right on the head. So I'm going to use the head as support as I do the technique. What is going to be my guide is the length that I already cut. So I'm going to watch it as it's feeding into my fingers. So flat to the head, I'm going to push my hand up. As soon as the length disappears into my hand, I'm going to cut a straight line right down to the floor. So this will work in any bob length that is between jaw and shoulder, or like right at the collarbone. So you got a lot of variety in haircuts of what you can do. So now what's happening is I actually cut the hair shorter here and longer here. This is going to cause this hair to lay down. And Carmen, flip her upside down. That was the biggest thing I wanted people to see. Even when her hair is flipped upside down, what's her neck hair doing? It's sticking to her neck. So it takes out the challenge for the customer of that hair lifting up and shifting off the back of their head. Does that make sense so far? Yeah? All right, so you'll hear me repeat it a couple times and I'm going to ask you guys to repeat it. So now I take another vertical section. Where do my fingers go? Flat to the head. Yep, and as soon as it's flat to the head, what do? Push up, and as soon as I push up, when my length disappears into my fingers, that becomes my guide. And you guys, in a real person, it doesn't look awkward. I'm a little awkward right now because I'm trying to stay as open as possible so you can see it. So I would keep working from the center to the next section to the next section. Now here though, if I created this really strong A-line shape, I have to protect the corner section of my hair. Because if I just put my fingers flat up to the head and shift up, I could create a hole behind the ear. So if you have a strong A-line shape, when you take this section here, you're going to direct it back, then shift it up, and then do the same thing, just cut your length from top to center. Does that make sense? No? Yeah? Yes. All right. So now you guys can see the difference between this side and this side. See how it's automatically starting to go BAM! No? You guys don't see it? Yeah. Okay, if you see it, go BAM! BAM! Oh my gosh, so serious. Okay, so come right back over here. All right, so same thing. I'm going to go take my... And you could take a piece of your previous guide if you want, but you always just want to keep in mind your guide is coming from the bottom length that you've already established. So you'll never cut like a shallowness in the bottom of your hairline. So now you guys tell me, what do? Okay, so I take my section vertically, just keep your hand flat to the head, push up, and as soon as your length comes in, bam, cut the hair off. I just like that word. Who was the chef that said it all the time? Was it Merrill? No, Merle? Emerald? Merrill. Who's Merrill? Yeah, Emerald, you can tell I don't cook, but I wish I would have had it first. So then same thing, everything, fingers flat to the head, push up, and then take my length off once, or the hair off once the length feeds in. So what do you think will happen if I take my fingers off the head? Say it louder.
You're going to create that 45-degree angle.
Yeah, because it's human nature for us, if we grab a section, as soon as we start to shift our fingers away, we start to shift them out also. Then we're creating that 45, which actually causes sometimes the problem that we're trying to fix in the bob haircut. And just because I over-directed one side back a little bit, I'm going to do this side back a little bit. Can you see? Can you now? Yeah? All right, sorry. So same thing, just shift up and then a straight line. So the biggest thing is your fingers are pointing to the ceiling, and then you're just cutting from ceiling to floor. But then you can see that it just starts giving you that nice little rounded shape to support the haircut. So now at this point, I would start getting into my side panels. So now I'm going to start over here with you. And then with these sections, if I want more of a traditional style bob, like she has going on here, I would just take the hair straight down to 0 degrees. And then if this hair were too much to work with, I could just subdivide my sections. So, and I could just split right in half horizontally. And then just connect my line to the bottom. So now, Carmen, will you do my other, oh, there you are. You keep moving on me. I'm like, where does she go?
This middle one?
Yeah, either one of these. Let's do this one.
This one's really cool.
So now if I want a little bit more graduation in my haircut, I can also create that just by shifting my fingers out now at a 45-degree angle. So you have the option of what are you looking for in the haircut, you know, and how much stack, and then you base it on top of that. But usually once we start graduating, we do it right in that bottom section. Sometimes we have to complete or deplete the bottom section to get the look that we're going for. So I'm just going to take this one down to natural fall. And then again, I would just cut a line from, horizontal line from wall to wall, just to connect to that. Now on my sides, I could, let me get one little guy, hang on. Now on the side pieces, and that's something that's happening with hers, is there's that little bit of disconnection in the front. So her haircut is pretty much, even though it's an A-line bob, so it has that nice little stack feel to it. As it comes around, it's still pretty square, and then it drops down into that really long line. So a nice little trick for that is you can just comb your hair as straight down as natural fall as possible. If you want it to be a straight line, just cut your line. Then you could start tipping downhill to get that long little peak or that long little point that you want in the front of the haircut. And that's what gives her front little assets. You can pass her around if you want. She's my favorite because I like the extreme versions of the haircuts. So I would basically just drop a section down, and then I'm going to do the other side, you guys a little bit more graduated. Can you guys all see over there too still? All right. And then same thing like a traditional bob, I would drop it down all to that natural fall. And you could cut it, if you're a person, if you can cut it right on the skin, that would be the most ideal. And then again, I could just really carve in that little shape if I wanted it. Okay, does anybody have any questions? You guys are quiet.
I do.
Okay,
So
ask.
for hair type, do you think this would go better with like fine hair or thick hair or? Because I have a lot of clients that have really fine hair and they want that long in the front, but they don't have it.
Yeah, so great question. Better on finer hair or coarser hair? You guys, I've done this technique on all types of hair and also all types of curl. It works really well on everybody. One of the things that I specifically like about this though, is if my customer's hair is super, super fine and I do this underneath, what's it gonna do to the rest of the hair? It makes it look bigger, so it's going to push it out and it's going to expand the look. Now at the same token, if my customer has a ton of hair and I do this in the bottom and I remove a ton of that hair, what could happen? It'll deflate it, right, and lay it back in. So I can just easily in this technique either build up volume or deplete volume depending on what's happening. And the thing that's weird is when I first heard that, I was like, you can't really do that. Yeah, I can. I'm going to create roundness in it, but this will support a fine-haired person to really cause it to move out. And then on a fine hair or a thick-haired person, sometimes I take this right to the scalp. You know, that will totally, you know, so it's just enough to my fingers to deplete it. So that answer your question? Okay. So this side, you guys, would be more one length. So now the nice thing about this haircut is when this woman's hair dries, this little disconnected under piece will give her that fullness and movement, and when her hair swings, she'll have that really long swing bob. Now if I wanted to graduate it, I could still go in and start to elevate the hair. So and then just depending on how short, so now you guys just remember, my haircut is not going to match from side to side. You guys are too serious. Because I'm going to do two different techniques, but I want you to be able to see how easy it is to get both of them. All right. So now if I'm going to go into graduate, I like to just shift my parting line to a little bit more of an A-line section, just for control. I'm going to start lifting the hair out at an elevation, so somewhere close to 45. I don't ever say, you guys, like to a customer, I'm doing a 45 degree, and I never say it to hairstylist. It's going to be somewhere in there. Because if you're really a hair nerd, you're going to be like, that is not 45 degrees, Leona. So I'm going somewhere between 0 and somewhere close to 45. I got to spin her this way now. You guys, it's like my chair. You know how we spin our chair around? Okay, and I'm just trying to see. All right, can you guys still see? All right, so now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to comb the hair out. You guys can't see, can you? Oh, you got, thank you. I'm like, come in closer, move for me. I'm like, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this section of hair, and I'm going to take just a little bit of the hair that I cut underneath as my guide. And then again, as I'm shifting out from the head, I'm going somewhere in that 45 degree range. Now, a trick that used to get me all the time with graduation is I want to be 45 from the hair that I'm cutting, not necessarily from my guideline. If I hold this hair really close down here, what am I going to get in my haircut as soon as I cut it? A weight line. So if I want a weight line, hold it low, and if I don't want a weight line, hold it higher. So this right here is the hair that I'm cutting. That would be 90 degrees. I want to go somewhere right in there. And then again, like I said, I just referenced my length a little bit underneath as my guide. And now I'm cutting to that 45. Now when I drop this, because I have an A-line, I will have a long piece right there. I can just detail that off in the haircut. If you're more comfortable, you could cut your length first, then kind of direct it back to do your graduation. So now I'm just going to do my next section. Now, if I want it heavier, I'm going to go to more of a stationary 45, and if I want it lighter or airier, I will go to a higher 45. But I base that off of each section that I'm going to cut. And like I said, when that long piece drops down right here, I'm not even going to worry about it for a minute. And that's how this is how her haircut was done. So now again, just take my whole section. Can you guys still see okay over there? I know you can't. You're moving? Okay, you can see it. So same thing, and then I'll just direct this hair back. Now, what I'm also doing in the haircut is over direction. The farther the hair travels, the longer it gets. So you'll see too, this would create just a really nice A-line shape that I might have to clean up just a bit in my graduation. So now I get much more of a stacked feel on this side and much more of a one length feel on this side. So it's a super easy technique to do. You guys like it so far? Yes. Yeah? And now let me just kind of clean up the line. So she's kind of similar to the other side. All right. So now in the bob haircut, what shape does most women's bob take on after it's all done or as it starts to grow out?
Question mark.
Okay, triangle, which should look like a nice little ooh question mark, but usually it starts to do this, right? As it grows out, it starts to get real triangular and real wide. And a lot of times we also need to deplete that a little bit in the haircut so it keeps on that really nice little round shape. And then again, when I saw this, it freaked me out a little bit the first time. All right. So, does anybody sew in here? Like make clothing? Yeah? I wish I could. I would have some really creative clothes if I could sew. You sew, Carmen? No? I'm like, I wish I did. Okay, but in clothing, when you're trying to get fabric to move, right, you cut it and you put, or basically you put a pleat in it so it will open up and move and shift around. I can do the same thing within a haircut by creating, if I create purposeful pockets in the hair, I can really cause my haircut to open up and take on a different shape. So that's what I want to do through this section, because what happens for most women is this is where their hair starts to flatten out. So what I want to do is pop it in this area so it gets rounder as it's coming off the top of the head and not flat as it's coming off the top of the head. So just like in the bottom, I'm building a little support in, I'm going to build some support into this section also. So I'm going to start right in the back section and I'm going to take a little triangle shape. If they have a ton of hair, make a really long triangle. If they have finer hair, take a smaller triangle. So now this section, I'm going to lift it straight up. And then the big question now is, what's my guide? My guide is going to be the length of the hair through here. That is creating either my graduation or my one length feel on the bottom of the haircut. Okay, you ready? Everybody take a deep breath. Let it go. Oh my gosh. So now when I drop that down, I just put a pleat right in the center of her haircut. And you guys, let's just be real. I had a really hard part in her hair, so that's what that's doing. When I spray this back down, this will lay right in. But this will also support that whole area, so when her bob comes over, it's just gonna lay really nicely. So now I want to expand it into the side pieces. Now what I don't want to do is do my triangles where they all connect to each other. I'm also purposely leaving little disconnected pieces in between, and that's why the triangle sections. So now I'm just going to take another little triangle piece, shift this hair right up, and I'm going to come this way so you guys can see it. Now you would probably be standing here on the same side of the head. I'm just going to come over so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm looking for my little guide piece. And then just cut my straight line. So you will not cut a hole in the bottom or around your perimeter because your guide is coming from that area, so you won't have that happen. And then if she's super dense, I'll do another one right through here. Now once I get in front of the ear, or right where the ear attaches and in front of the ear, I always check to see what's happening in the hairline. So my triangle, see how low the point goes? I'm getting this really thin spot right through here. I might make my triangle just a little smaller, so that way that fills in the softness of that area, and then direct it farther. Now this one has to direct farther because my length is much longer towards the front on this section. So then again, just connect it right over. Did that make your guys' heart miss a beat? Yeah? Is it still?
Yeah.
Wait till you try it and then you're like, oh my gosh. All right. And then same thing in this girl. You can't see it even though her hair's all really long and bobbed and tattered. But then when I do that, you can start seeing them in there, the little pieces that they do. So the only time I would not advise that you do these like all the way forward to the front of the face is if your customer is going to put their hair into like a ponytail. If the bob is that long, then just do like 3 in the back and leave your side sections out. But it will build a really nice roundness in the haircut, and you got all this type of movement that happens to it. You guys still liking it?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I saw that I was like, oh, my heart went heavy. Then I saw it dry and I was like, forget it, I love it, let's cut it. All right, so now what do we do on the top? And are you guys still okay over there? You guys still okay? All right. They get all bashful. I think pretty soon we're gonna get them up and going. What do you think, Kevin?
I think so.
I think so too. We're almost done with the haircut, believe it or not.
Maybe some Red Bull.
Coffee, shots of coffee. All right, so now we're gonna get right here into the top section. So I'm basically, and then, will you fast forward one more? I'm basically going to take this top into like 3 sections of hair. So I have what's sitting right on the crown. I'm going to have the center that runs in the middle of the head, and then the front fringe section. Now in the center piece, if I really want to create a lot of roundness in the haircut, I need to get some of the length through this area off, or put just a little bit of layer or texture through this section. Now if I didn't want to create much more roundness in it, I could just drop this hair right back down to my graduation or natural fall and cut it. But I want to create a little bit more movement for her. So I'm going to take my section right in the center. Ooh, you guys look, there's my cutout right there. Look how short that is in comparison. Now for this, I want to ignore it. And I just want to kind of reference like where my length is. And then up through this section, I'm just going to do, you can do a little point cutting if you want, or you could do a straight line cut. But then I'm just going to cause that to just drape and hang right over the top of the rest of my haircut. If I have an A-line shape, I'm going to direct everything into the center. And now that piece in the center is going to be my guide. And if I don't have an A-line shape, then I can take each section just straight out from the head and create that layer in it. But it just really creates a nice soft roundness in the back. Look at my cutout. Doesn't that freak you out? That little piece? Just ignore it. It's support. And Carmen, or Liz is going, is that going to be a redo? I promise it won't, Liz. And if it is a redo, you all know the haircut. No, I'm just teasing. It wouldn't be a redo. When you actually do it, you guys, your heart will skip a beat the first time. And you'll kind of like watch your customer in the mirror like, and then after you dry it and they're like, oh my God, my hair's never been this full. Then you're like, oh, it's the best. So, but we all have that moment when we do something new that it's like, what's happening? All right, so now my next section, right on the top of the head. Now here, same thing, this area can create a lot of issues in a bob because it gets so weighty. And this can create a lot of issues too in just a normal haircut, even a layered haircut. You know, it starts to shift or not lay correctly. So I could also take this section up. I could either pull a little piece of my length guide from the sides and use that as a guide. Or my favorite thing to do on this, I want to know where my length guide is, but I like to twist this section. And the reason why the twist is it gives you a little bit more of a piecey, sporadic texture when it falls back down. Because as I cut it, the pieces are all coming from a different point. And then just go in and point cut it. So it keeps all my length because I have a reference for that, but then also it's keeping that nice movement for me. Now you guys keep in mind, I'm giving you options in the bob. So if they want it to be all one length, once you did your bottom portion, comb everything straight down. But these are just nice ways to fix challenges for customers. So now this top piece, I could either split it down the center and cut it with the perimeter shape if I want, or if I also want to create texture and movement to it, I could direct it back to the section and cut it, or direct it all the way back to the back to cut it. But I just want to show you guys one thing with the bob. Even if you just do a plain bob haircut that's all one length, if you take the whole top section of the head, comb it back, and if you're graduated, lift it high, and if you're not graduated, lift it all down to their perimeter length, it will fix the problem that so many women have with their bob, which is where their part shifts, and then if their part moves at all from where the bob was cut, all of a sudden they get all these long pieces. This will take care of the long pieces. So what do you guys think? Are you guys excited to try a piece, or are you like horrified? The twisties, yeah. I like to do the twisty too. I'm just joking about my own haircut for a second, you guys. Usually people ask me with my haircut, did I do my bangs on purpose? Yes, I did cut them, the baby piece. I did cut them short and they didn't break off because I lightened it so light. So that's the one. And then the other is I really like the top of my head to stand up. So we usually just take my crown and twist it and then cut really, really short so I get like a little sprig on the top of my head. So it's a fun little technique to use short or long. All right, so I mean that's basically our little bob look. So you can do a lot of things within a basic bob haircut to make them unbasic. I'm going to take just a little long guys off. So do you have any questions?
I do.
Yes.
How do you feel about when people clipper cut for the bob?
Oh, I love to clipper cut a bob. Yeah.
Do you think it saves time, or just maybe when the hair's so dense, you just take all the weight out, or?
Yeah, so great question. I'm going to do it into two parts if I can. So does clipper cutting it save time? It could if you're really comfortable with the technique. Any technique that you're comfortable with is going to end up saving you a lot of time, you know, in the long run. So I would say if you do it enough that you get really comfortable with it. One thing that I love about the clipper cut technique, and have you guys all seen it? So basically what you do with the haircut is you kind of just comb the hair all down a natural fall, and then just real lightly with your clipper you start chiseling in the shape that you want with the bob. What I like about that is it's done on dry hair, you know, so you can really customize and see what the feel of the haircut is going to be, and you can deplete the weight really, really quickly. But also as you're going in to do those cuts, you have to be really gentle with your clipper, you know, because a lot of hair is going to come off really quickly, so if not. Yeah, so yeah, I like any technique that saves me time and money. That's what I'm for, yeah. All right, what other questions? Did I answer your question? Yeah? All right, any other questions? Looking for hands, no? All right, so basically you guys, when I shake her out, you know, she's got a little bit more graduated side over here. It's gonna be a little bit more one length on this side. And then both of them have a little bit of an A-line shape towards the front. I'm a huge believer in all haircuts, but especially a bob haircut. Blow dry the hair out and then go in and do some texture to lighten up the haircut. So, set her down. So even though she's got like a nice little shape happening within her haircut, I could decide that, you know, there's still some areas that I think are too airy or are too heavy and still need a little bit more airiness in them. So one of my favorite techniques for lightening out weighted haircuts is just to take an area that I think is too heavy, kind of shift it out similar to where, and oh, there's her cutout, you guys. Did you see it just drop? Kind of like shift it out in the area that you think is too heavy. And then once you shift it out, just make a fist with your hand so the hair fans and opens up. And then as soon as I fan this and open it up, see how it's nice and piecey, 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 piecey clump? That clump is where I would go in and texture. So I would just go in and do deep point cutting. So deep point cutting is just going straight into the section. Shut the shear on the way out so you don't get your knuckles. But that's just a really soft way to really lighten up the shape and not lose any of the length. So then again, there goes her little cutout. And then same thing, you know, just shift it in. And then like right here, that's kind of what I'm looking for, that wispy texture. So I just want to create the same thing through here. That's it. No, that's not it. Sometimes we do this like really heavy fringe on somebody, and then the problem is they love like the look, but then they're like, it's always in my eye. It's always in my eye. I could do the philosophy too, that short hair is going to move long hair by just kind of combing the hair where I want it to lay. Let's see. All right. Kind of pump up the chair. Okay, so I'm going to lay it the way I want it to lay, and then I'm just real lightly going to come in with my shear, and then just start etching my way through the ends to put some shorter pieces in through here, but those shorter pieces will push the long pieces and make it stay over or stay out of her eye, so it's just a nice way to soften it up. And if this were really my customer, I would be like, ooh, we should put a little baby bang right there. Because baby bang, bless you, baby bang is the next thing that's happening, is going to be the rage in haircuts, is people are going to start cutting little things like I have in theirs. Well, if they're brave, they will. You should have one. Yeah, you should. You already have a great bang. Yeah, so bangs are coming back. All right, any other questions haircut-wise? No? All right, it's time to have a little fun. You guys want to play some games? Oh, you got a question? Say what? Oh, you want me to do the razor thing? Yeah. Okay. So another thing that I do a lot, you guys, is I will do a little bit of like razor back combing to open up the haircut. So like if I have little disconnected bits like this that just look too heavy and they're not laying in the way that I need them to, and I like this one, so I'm just going to pick up one right behind it. I'll take the section of hair, and then as I'm going into, first of all, to hold it, I'm going to pinch onto the hair. So I'm not holding it like I'm going to cut this way, just pinching onto the ends of the hair. I'm going to open up my shear, and when I open the shear and get ready to cut, my shear is never going to close, because if it closes, I'm going to cut a piece of the hair off. But I'm basically going to come into the hair, push my shear in, and then push forward. So it's like I'm back combing the hair. But you just get little wisps of texture in the hair, and what it does is really lightens out the ends, or creates those little soft pieces, you know, that kind of flow through here. And that's what was done in these little pieces to soften them, so they look really nice and wispy. Yeah, thanks. Nice. All right, yeah, it's nice. And sometimes too, I'll do that in a layered haircut, you know, or even like a one-length haircut where it's just heavy in pieces and I need a little bit more movement in the end. If I'm like, it's heavy right through here, let's just soften up this little piece, and then same thing. And a trick with your shear, and I tell you this because the first time I did it, I cut a piece of hair off. Kevin and Liz are like, we're glad she doesn't work for us. No, I did. I was like, well, we missed something on that one. I fixed it, but, well, you can only fix it so much. But don't let the shear shut. So if you're afraid about your shear shutting, put your finger in the tang here, and it won't shut all the way. But now once you get comfortable with it, then it's just, you know, boop, boop, boop. So it's almost like you're back combing with your shear. The more loose your wrist is when you're pushing, the easier it is to get the hair off. If you're really stiff-handed and like doing this, you're gonna work forever and not take anything. Yeah, so be a little looser-handed. And then on that one too, you guys, dry hair. I'm a big fan, anytime you texturize, if you do it on dry hair, because you're seeing exactly what you're texturizing, it's really hard to texturize wet hair and see what it's going to look like in the end result. So I'm all about, I like my customers to all leave pretty too. Well, guys, I like them to leave cute, but you know, I always talk them into letting me finish out the haircut for them. Because then the other thing with the bob too is I could have like really executed a perfect line on the bottom of the haircut, but when it dries, there might be a piece that's not laying right. It would allow me to be able to go in there and detail out a little piece, you know, that I wouldn't see when the hair was wet because it's laying differently just because of the water in it. All right, are you guys good? Yeah? Are you sure no questions? Yay, did you like it? Yeah. Yay! Okay. Yes, Miss Liz. Okay.
What would you suggest to the stylist when they get a woman in their chair and they find out they're doing a bob?
So like question-wise?
No, because you really do need to start with clean, fresh hair.
Oh.
Blow dry it.
Yeah.
So to avoid that awkward bit where you're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, it's $5 more to blow dry it, or you do it for free because you forgot to mention it.
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of working on clean hair. But so the same thing, you know, when the customer sits in my chair, it's just like, let's talk about your haircut. I always talk about their haircut first, you know, and about what we're looking for. And then it's like, okay, you know, I'm just going to be honest. You may possibly have product in your hair. It's going to be really hard to execute this perfect bob haircut if I'm getting product out, you know, if I just spray it down. So how about we give you a nice shampoo? It's going to be $5 more. You know, usually by then they're like, oh yeah, perfect, let's go ahead and shampoo it. And then the same thing, as we're talking about their haircut, I just tell them, I really would like to dry and finish your hair because I will see things in your dry hair when it's done that I wouldn't see now that it's wet. So, you know, and to get an accurate haircut, I need the hair to be wet, but to really personalize it, I need to be dry. Can I blow dry your hair? It's going to be an additional fee. Are you okay with that? You know, and then they're usually like, yeah, go ahead. And then you train them. So, you know, I have most of my request clients, sometimes I'm like, okay, let's go to my station. I'm like, where are they? They're already in the shampoo bowl, you know? And so I make the shampoo nice, you know, if it's a nice experience, they have no problem paying, you know, the additional money for it. So did that answer your question? Yeah. So other things too, you guys, that I ask about bobs, and when I learned some of these techniques, I really thought as a stylist I was kind of doing a lot of customers a disservice, because somebody would say to me, I really want my bob to, you know, have movement and lift in the back, and I graduated everybody. It was like, okay, whoop, hold it out, graduate it, cut it at a 45 degree. Well, I think you guys can see with this haircut, even though it still has a graduated feel, it looks very different than a traditional 45-degree angle graduated haircut. It's round. So when we are graduating hair, we're graduating a triangle shape in. With this, I actually was able to create a round shape, so it has a lot more movement and softness to it. So, and like I said, those little pockets might scare us when we see them in there, but when her hair is moving like this, all you see is the movement of the hair. You don't see the little inputs that or little pieces I put into it. So, and if you're scared, make a triangle, a tiny little triangle. If you're really scared, do it on each other in the store. Because once you do it, and then you're like, that is easy. Now, nobody asked about the question, but could I put those little inserts, those triangles, into a layered haircut to make it move more? Yes. So if I'm trying to open up a haircut and create more width, if I put width around the occipital bone or the parietal ridge, some shorter hairs, I will always get more width in the haircut. So, but I think they just move, you know, really pretty, and no matter how she shakes her hair, it's like, oh, that's kind of cute. You know, I kind of want this haircut. Who wants to do it? I got to grow my bang a little bit longer, but I got to stop cutting it off, maybe. I don't know.
So how do you do your bangs?
Oh, so my bangs? You really want to know how my bangs are done? They literally calm my bangs down and then just go boop, 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 all the way across. And I probably just cut some of them. Yeah, but that's, and I do it to trim them. Oh, I did. But I do it to trim them up. It's just point cut right into them. Yep. Yeah, they needed it. This morning I was like, I need a haircut, but my shears were here. I was like, my bangs are too long. Yeah, great questions, you guys, great questions. Now another thing too, when I'm doing the bobs, this look really made me change how I communicate with my customer about a bob haircut. You know, because as soon as she's saying, I want a bob, do you want it to be a movable bob or do you want it all one length? Oh, I want it movable. What do you want the shape to look like? Do you want it like this or do you want it like this? You know, because if she's like, oh, I want it like this, you know, or I want it really full towards the bottom, I'm going to graduate it. You know, if she wants it really round, then I'm going to do something like this to build the roundness into it. So, you know, it changes that perspective too. So thanks, Liz. Any other questions?
What about the one that wanted undercut?
Oh, yeah. So could you, well.
Put the triangle pieces in to give it some movement?
Yeah, you absolutely could. Yeah.
Still has everything to do the undercut?
Yeah, so great question if you didn't hear it. If they're clippering in an undercut underneath because you still do the top pieces and, you know, to support up here, you absolutely could. And sometimes that's nice too, because when we undercut people, sometimes their hair gets too skinny, you know, and then all of a sudden it wants to collapse and almost get like a square shape because the hair is gone to support it. If you put those little inserts in, it will pop it back up and make it full. The inserts are great, you guys, when people want their hair to move or when they're trying to get more fullness, put those little inserts in. And sometimes you just do 3 in the back of the head, that's okay. And that's kind of what you were seeing. Will you go back one slide for me, please? Thank you. That's kind of what you're seeing, you know, on the back there. Those are those triangle sections. And then the actual technical term is inversion cutting. All right, so great questions. So now we're gonna play a little game with you guys. Actually, we're gonna play a series of games. So we're gonna come to your table and visit you, and as we're visiting you, we're gonna walk through a bunch of other activities, because what we're doing in the salon doesn't have to just do with the haircut or the color or anything else that we're doing. It doesn't all have to do with the technical side. Only 20% of our customers' perception of what we did actually had to do with the haircut. Most customers don't know if their haircut was technically sound or not. They know if they liked it or if they didn't like it. They only know if it was bad, if we tell them something was wrong with it, or if we actually had them leave with an A-line they didn't request, you know, or there was actually a hole in the haircut. So 80% of the perception of the business is based on everything else that's happening in the salon. All right, so you're gonna have friends come visit you at your table, and then we start typing for us.